Hi girls, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back if you've been here before, and if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to be talking about all things women in business, women in their careers, and women in finance, and we're going to help you to smash those goals that you've set for yourself. So today I want to talk to you guys about 3 books that have really helped me in my career. I work in Google in Ireland, and I have used the tips and tricks that I've learned in these books to get me where I am today in a very short amount of time, and I think they have really helped me to catapult my career, make me more aware of what it's like to be a woman in business today, and also help me in my personal life in terms of understanding my own personal finances, making me more financially independent, and also knowing where and when to give my energy to someone else or to something else. First, I'm going to start with Lois P. Frankel's Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, because essentially this is a book all about how women are conditioned to naturally be less successful in the workplace today. So in Lois's book, there are loads and loads of reasons she gives as to why this is the case, but 3 of the points that I found to be the most interesting were: number 1, we've only recently been allowed to work while we have children, and we're still trying to make it to equal. Essentially, we're still trying to close the pay gap, which does exist. It is a thing in every industry. At some point, the woman will naturally be paid slightly less, and depending on the industry and depending on your country, that varies a lot, but it is for sure a thing. It sometimes is swept under the rug, and even when women know that they're being paid less, they won't say anything to their boss or their management. You should acknowledge it, and you should call it out when you see inequalities, whether it's for yourself or for other people, and make sure that your workplace is actually treating everyone as fairly as possible. The next point that Lois makes that I thought was super interesting is that women are just taught differently as children, so we're going to be naturally more people-pleasing and more polite, more compliant. Our focus is more on being liked than being competitive or aggressive, i.e. assertive, and it can really slow us down compared to boys. If you think about young boys and girls, young girls are taught to look pretty, to be polite, to be compliant, and to always be quiet, whereas boys, if they're aggressive or they're fighting or they're competing against each other, it's a lot more tolerated and it's more so expected of them to be like that. Because of these gendered stereotypes from a very early age, it's very difficult for women to be assertive, to have that competitive nature, to be a bit more aggressive and to fight for what they want. It's just not the norm, and as we're taught from that very early age to be polite and compliant in the office, it's even more difficult for us to break those molds and to, not try and be liked all the time, which means that we can often be left behind during times of promotion to senior level positions, to be the decision makers, because they're just seen to be people pleasers and not strong enough or assertive enough to handle those kind of responsibilities. If you're a woman in business who is aggressive, competitive, assertive, loud, often you're just called a bossy bitch, essentially, which is awful, because if a man was the exact same way, it wouldn't be the case. And Lois calls this out in a very articulate way that is super interesting to read about, and I'd highly recommend that you do, because it really changed the way that I behave in the office for sure, and stop feeling like if I have not smiled at someone today, that is not me being impolite, it's just me not needing to smile at everyone. It is an important lesson to learn, and I really think that Lois' book is fantastic for that kind of stuff. On top of all of this, Lois also goes into how women can be more softly spoken, more little girly. They can see their bosses as father figures and be intimidated by their power. We doubt ourselves way more than men do, and oftentimes women will work way harder than males silently. So we'll just get the work done and hope that someone sees it eventually, but they may never, and that's why men move up, because when they do something, they make sure people know about it, and rightly so. So should you. That's not a negative thing. There are many more points that Lois makes. I'd highly recommend that you grab the book. Again, link is down below. So the next book I want to talk about is Sheconomics by Karen Pine. So this is a really unknown one. I found it randomly on Amazon, and I don't know why I picked it up, but it was amazing. I think I read it when I was about 20 years old, I'd say. I was in college, and it was just one of the best things I could have ever done. It really started my journey towards financial independence, my love of money related topics, and just understanding savings, investments, pensions, everything like that. And it's just fantastic. Its focus on women specifically is so useful. It really talks about women's independence and how to become independent, how to make sure you are, so that you can be in control when bad things happen. For example, if in the future you get a divorce, if you find that you're out of your job, if you find anything. Essentially, in this world we are alone, and we have to be able to look after ourselves without our parents, without partner. On top of that, it also goes into more psychological side of money. So why do we emotionally spend as women? Why do we naturally, when we're happy or sad, decide to open up the online shopping and start clicking away with our credit card? And sometimes it can feel like a bit of a blur. I for sure did that, and I would spend all my money because I was like upset or stressed or sad or whatever, and I'd end up with, you know, 50 tops that I don't use or like, but I got that sense of happiness in that very moment that I bought it and when it arrived, and then the happiness went away. And basically she talks through all of that, how we end up emotionally spending and why it can be so detrimental to us as women especially, and how we're so much maybe more prone to it than men are. Karen also goes into setting financial goals and actually hitting them. She also talks about getting out of debt if that's a worry to you, and also just the importance of getting out of debt and not just paying the minimums essentially. I actually got out of debt because of her. I had some student loan debts and I jumped out of it. I spent like a year, paid everything off, and just, you know, lived pretty frugally for like 1 year, but then I had no debt after that, and it was fantastic. So this book really impacted me directly. And one of the most interesting parts of the whole book is her last section, where she talks about relationships and money and how important it is to find a partner who shares the same values as you in terms of your money goals. This is huge. I think that especially for me, I've had a couple of relationships and some of them have been really good about money and some of them have been less good about money. For me, the biggest thing is that I need to be able to talk to people about money that I'm with. So to be able to be completely open and honest about what's going on, what the goals are, what we both want is so important. You need to be able to have those conversations regularly, and I think that that's a great thing that she goes into specifically for women. So whatever your financial goals are, if you want to buy a house in 5 years time, if you want to get ready for kids in 2 years time, if you want to just have enough saved up for 6 months in case of emergencies, if you want to leave the country and go traveling for 12 months, read this book because it really helps you get your head and your numbers in check. It's a really great book. I really recommend it. It's one of my favorites and I've had it for years and years, 7 years now. So I honestly think it's fantastic. It's about 300 pages and it's the best 300 pages you'll ever read in your life. So the last book that I really recommend to you guys to get if you are looking to catapult your career, to get to the next level, to get into those senior level positions eventually, is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. So caveat, there is a lot of swearing in this book, like probably too much for my liking. I don't mind obviously a little bit of cursing, but I do think that the level of F words basically is kind of crazy. It's nearly in like every second sentence, which is fine if you can ignore it and you kind of get into the rhythm of it, but it is a little bit distracting and probably a little bit not necessary. But the main message of this book is incredible. It honestly changed the way I saw life in general. So the whole thing is that we only have a certain number of fucks to give, which basically means that we only have a certain amount of energy to give away to people. So if we're spending all our energy worrying about what our terrible boss is doing or thinking, or worrying about whether our partner is cheating, or worrying about whether our parents think that we are fulfilling all their wildest dreams, we are essentially depriving ourselves of that energy, giving it all away to things that actually serve no purpose to us and are ultimately damaging us. So the way that Mark Manson describes how we basically give fucks to people is super interesting. The first one that he talks about is how today marketers, influencers, social media, they're all telling us how we should be living so that we can have a successful or happy life. And the thing is that, you know, the way that they're showing it, big houses, big boats, big yachts, big trips away, that might be some people's version of happiness, but it's probably not everyone's. And actually happiness is a totally unique and different thing to everyone, and you need to be able to make sure that you're actually striving for your happiness, not what social media tells you you need to be happy. We also need to basically give less of a fuck about what people think of us, so that we're not thinking about what our parents think of us, our partners think of us, our bosses think of us, our co-workers think of us, people from school that you haven't seen in years, random people on the internet. We need to just stop giving a fuck about them, basically, according to Mark Manson. Mark just tells us that we need to be super conscientious about where we give our energy and make sure that we're giving it to the things that matter most to us, not to other people, not according to Instagram, not according to our parents or our partner or anything else. We have to be individual about this and make sure that we are putting energy towards what we actually care about. So if that is going into your career and leveling up, or being the best person at this, or maybe it's starting your own business, maybe it's starting your own YouTube channel, maybe it's just doing what makes you actually happy, that you are waking up and you feel fulfilled and good and not stressed or burnt out or under a significant amount of debt because you bought that new car that actually your neighbors don't care about or don't give a fuck about. Basically, the whole book is pretty short. It's not a particularly long book. It's super condensed in the information. I don't think there's any fluff in it necessarily. Every single chapter was interesting, but he rounds off the book by basically going into this thing that, you know, our time is limited, our energy is limited. Ultimately, and sorry to be a downer, but everyone will die. We have a certain amount of time on this earth, and we have to be super careful about where we place our energy. So if we are putting all of our energy into worrying about a job we hate, wondering if our partner is cheating on us, trying to fulfill the expectations of our parents in a job that we hate, we are never going to be happy, and we are basically giving all of that energy away for other people's desires. And it's not helping us at all to move towards our happiness. So you need to find what makes you happy, remove all the other voices from your head, all the other opinions, and basically move towards what makes you happy. So those are my 3 books that I would highly recommend for every woman in business who is in the middle of their career, starting their career, finishing their career, whatever. Just make sure that you get these books and you read them. They're all extremely useful, extremely helpful, and they've changed the way I view business, changed my career for the better, and made me overall a more conscious person and a happier person overall in general. So yes, I will leave the links down below for all of the books I mentioned. So Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, Sheconomics, and Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. None of them are affiliates, they're just links. I don't have affiliate codes yet. I honestly don't know how to set them up yet, but I would highly recommend that you reach out and get them. If you have any questions on the books or want any other book reviews or any other videos like this, please let me know. I'm hoping to get more into the business side and career side of things on YouTube here, so please subscribe if you're interested, and I really hope to see you again. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.